Now yesterday I put the crankcase in the position of what I hope is going to end up being about 6 degrees before top dead center, because I'm still going under the theory that that's where the crankcase, where the crankshaft position should be when the line in the little timing window on the pump is lined up perfectly. But my shaft has to be in the exact correct position for that to also happen. So remember, on the end of my shaft here there's a dimple, and that's going to correspond to the little mark on the inside of the pump. So I got to go take a look at the pump and see, when I line that all up in there, where that corresponds to what position this should be on, and then I'll be able to rotate the shaft, because the shaft is not bolted to the gear, and I can turn it and it won't turn. The gear will stay stationary, but the shaft will rotate. So let's go take a look at that. Okay, so I just carefully inserted a large screwdriver down into there and engaged the tang and turned so that the two timing marks are lined up. So now if I look straight down the bore, I can see that that corresponds to, well, almost vertical with the little dot on the bottom. So I'm actually surprised that's not perfectly vertical. If I put it perfectly vertical, I bet you that line would be in the center of the window. That looks perfectly vertical, and yeah, sure, the line's in the center of the window when I put it perfectly vertical. I wonder why this other line's not in the center of the window. I mean, the only way that line can move is if the head actually, no, the camering, that's the camering. So the only way that line could move is if the camering was in a different position. But that's locked by this screw, so that can't move. That's interesting. I wonder if it was up like that when I was taking it apart. I hope so. Well, time to move outside and with the pump and prepare for the big moment. I'm going to put a light film of grease on the inside of the pilot tube before I go out there. Oh, I almost forgot one other important thing. We got one more O-ring that we've got to replace from the kit here, and that's this big fat one right here, which actually is what seals this flange to the crankcase. So this one just slips over the end of the pilot tube like that. Okay, I'm actually getting nervous. Well, unfortunately, I've got to hook up this shutoff cable first, because it's on the back side and it's almost impossible to get to the set screw that holds it on there. I really wish I didn't have to do that until after I had the pump on, because it's one more thing I'm going to have to contend with. Well, let's see, is that, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do that now that I look at it. I think what I'm going to have to do is undo this bolt over here so that this cable sheath comes off. Either that, or maybe if I pull the lever. I just realized this is the perfect time to pull this cable completely out, clean it, and lubricate it. You can see all the water as I pull it out. Just don't think that's gonna work. I think I'm gonna have to try and connect this shutdown cable after the pump's mounted. I just hope I can get back there with a screwdriver. This protrusion right here off the cylinder block off the block. Might be in the way, but it's just kind of weird to me the way that they set this up. I rotate that thing around so the screw head's on the top. No, because then I can't do that. If I rotate this around so the screw head's on the top, then the problem is that the lever itself is in the way. So you definitely have to access it from the bottom. Now, alright, I'll try and mount it and deal with that later. Right now, I rotated the shaft around so the dot on the end of the shaft is on the bottom, which corresponds to where the mark on the inside there is. And I've got the shaft, the top of the shaft, carrying a little bit closer to me, so it's tilted just a little bit, which corresponds to the way it is in there. I've got my pilot tube lubed up, and now I'm going to put a little bit of lube on these seals, and we're going to see if we can't get this thing in. Well, I think I got it. I think I actually got it on the first try. Even with that seal tool, getting that seal in to start was a little rough. And then all of a sudden it got real easy and slid right on, which means one of two things. It either just got to the point where it compressed down and got into the tube, or it rolled over on me, which is going to spell disaster, because it'll mean that this thing will leak fuel into the crankcase like crazy, and I'll regret ever having gone through all the trouble of putting it back together. So hopefully it's not going to be that. Also, my timing mark is still in pretty good shape here. I think before I snug up these bolts or these nuts all the way, though, I'm going to want to definitely see what I can do about getting that shutoff cable hooked on, because with this being able to move just a little bit, it's going to give me a little bit more play. I noticed that my little mark here, my little marks are you know, they're in kind of a decent position there, so that should give me a little bit more play. Where I am in the slotted holes is near the center, so if I do have to move it a few degrees either way after I put it all back together, I think I'll be able to do that. So right now, as far as I can tell, things are progressing the way I want them to. Okay, I just put the cable in, and actually when it's in the full shut-off position, it's actually exposed enough that I think I might be able to get a short stubby screwdriver in there, or since it's got a hex head on it, I might even be able to use this very small wrench on there. So I think I'm going to be all set as far as the shut-off cable problem goes. So now I'm going to work at snugging up these nuts all the way. Alright, I've got these two top nuts snugged up so that it's very close to fully tight, but still loose enough so that I can twist the pump and rotate it. Notice my timing marks are still lined up. I didn't get to that nut back there yet because I forgot about what a bear that is to get to, and how I was lucky enough that that was left loose so I could get it up with my fingers. But I need to tighten that up, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I think I need one of those half moon style wrenches, which I don't think I have one. And I think I meant to get one that size just for this job. So I hope that doesn't mean I can't finish this today. Ugh. Okay, anyways, so now what I want to do is I want to take this cover back off here, and I want to see if I can find two holes in that gear that are lined up with the hub on the end of the drive shaft for the pump. Okay, so here's the trick. Now what we got to do is we got to find two holes in this gear that when the bolt is inserted will actually screw in, hopefully. Alright, so there's my winning pair of holes. This one and this one. The gear and the hub line up nicely on these two, so I'll be able to tighten these two down, and then I can install my washer and nut and torque all that down. Okay, I just hooked up the fuel shutdown cable and the ever so important fuel shutdown cable, or shut-off cable, and as I thought, I was able to get on here with a little 1/4 inch drive or 1/4 inch size wrench to tighten that because I couldn't get behind there with a screwdriver. Well, I couldn't find the torque specifications for these two cap screws, so I just tightened them up really well, and now I'm going to put on the big nut and washer, and that gets torqued to 35 to 40 foot-pounds. Alright, so now next thing I think I want to do is I think I'm going to crank the engine manually. I'm going to turn the engine all the way over to the top dead center mark again and see whether or not my lines line up the way that they lined up when I originally took this cover off. Because I think I took video at the point where I had it at TDC and kind of made a mental note of where the lines were in respect to each other. And then if they're in the same proximity, then I'll know I've got this thing timed basically the same way that it was before I took it out. Okay, so I can rotate this around and look at my tapes and my marks, which have still stayed on from last night, which is nice. And first time I come around to TDC, to that mark, it won't be at top dead center number 1. I have to do it twice, so let's check it out. Okay, so now I've come around the second time to my little pen mark there for top dead center, and I just confirmed on the other side that the pointer is pointing right at the line on the flywheel for the top dead center. And if I look at my marks, I could see that the actual position of the rotating part, the governor weight holder there, that timing mark on that is just slightly below the stationary mark on the cam ring on the right. So let's see how that compares to what I had before I took the pump out originally.